Hey there, welcome to CNT Collectibles. I'm C. Hope you are doing well. This is your sports card chart blast where we take a look at the price action of our favorite collectibles. We'll break this out once in a while. This seemed like a pretty good time to do it with all the talk of is the market at a bottom or not. And so I just want to say a couple things about that, and then we'll look at a few charts of some relatively important players. Not important, that's necessarily, but some players that are front and center for one reason or another. Bottom line with market bottoms, you'll know it's a bottom after it happens. All right, so calling it, you can have projections. There's a few tools that you can use. We don't have them in the sports card realm just yet, and maybe we won't. But in real life, there's a few things you can use, and really you're not gonna likely pick the bottom at the point. It does happen from time to time. You can see certain things, the market as a whole, if it has a big down day and then it finishes up, you can say, hey, that's a bottom. Some people will call it that, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. In sports cards, again, we don't have like these indices that are all going to move together and give you that. We have a lot of individual components, so it's very much like the old days where there was a relatively fixed amount of money and it would just go from sector to sector, and so you'd have that rotation. You don't have this event where a ton of liquidity comes into the sports card market and just lifts it up, or all at once, or anything like that. So market bottoms are built a little bit differently. So the best thing you can do with this kind of stuff is say, outline your risk reward, and that's what we try and do here. What are the probabilities? Are you at the bottom, or treat this as the bottom, and if that breaks, then you've got a different range set up, and you'd want to exit your position or something like that. So that's kind of how I would look at it. Instead of calling the bottom, just say, here's some levels to watch. Buying likely steps in here, and if it doesn't, then we continue to go lower. So try and be a little bit more vague, a little bit more agnostic about this kind of stuff here. So look at the SCI 500 index, down 27% over the last 365 days. And so volatile. So cards are pretty volatile. So that'll lead into the end of this as well. It was on a live with our friend Dakota, Sports Cards Anonymous, and a few people took issue with us saying that not even vintage cards are safe. And they said, oh, of course they're safe. And I want to talk about that a little bit more. And I think maybe there's an agreement there. Maybe we're just using different definitions, and that's one of the things you always need to do when you have a conversation like this. Is let's agree upon the terms, and then we can debate on that. So I've got a few things towards the end here. We'll see how safe these things really are. So, anyways, the index making a higher low, and this is the first step in the bottoming process. Is you don't make lower lows. So you continue to make lower lows, and the bottom's not in. But once you start to make a higher low, then you can mark yourself against that and say, all right, well, that's my line in the sand if I'm going to buy here. So that's how I would play that if I were to play that, if we had an index to play or something like that. So anyways, the higher low, that is a good sign. We've seen this in the past slightly. It has not held, so it's important for this to hold. And if it starts to grind up, then yeah, that is the bottom. So again, we're going to know this a little bit after the fact here. So all right, let's look at some baseball risers and fallers. Looking for cards that have rookie cards transacted more than 20 times over the last 14 days, and a minimum price of $25 is the scan on that one. So Griffey, Ohtani, Tatis getting some love, Rafi Devers some movement after his big contract. Wander Franco, a player that I like going into the season, and I'm picking up a few things, and another Ohtani getting some love here. Some of the bigger fallers, which may be of more interest. Ohtani update is not getting the same amount of love that's in the PSA 10. That is off 26% to lead to the downside. So, or excuse me, 36%, $26. So if you're looking for an Ohtani, I think that's the cooler picture, anyways, right? Tony Gwynn, Vlad, another Tatis, and Aaron Judge. So kind of a mixed bag in baseball land. Maybe there's just not a lot going on there. Judge giving back some of his. Actually, the Raw is actually doing pretty well. The base PSA 10 rolling over. So he had that big monster run towards the end of the season. Now there's a slew of videos saying, hey, maybe he had a little bit of help. So I have one of those put out a few months back, and so if you care to check that out, please help yourself. All right, football. Trevor Lawrence, Jerry Rice, Elway, Brady, Air Bear, and Saquon are your leaders. And the ones that are getting beat up, Joey B. That might be us, the absolute base. So if that's the card you're looking at, maybe it's presenting an opportunity for you. Hurts, Purdy. His cards went up like a shot as soon as he got the job. And he's really done nothing to not deserve a little bit more elevated price, but too much too fast. So he's coming back in. Air Bear and Burrow. So mixed bag on some of those base cards are coming down, and you have some of the higher end cards that are holding in a little bit better. For basketball, Bryant, Morant, Evan Mobley, Morant, Hero, and Luka are some of your biggest risers. Bridges and emergence. Too many darn cards out there. So some of your followers, Cade Cunningham, who's not going to be playing for a while. Jalen Green, who was having a good season. Zion, who had a lot of love for a minute there, losing 30% over the past couple of weeks. Luka and a different Ja. That's the Hoops base. Hockey. Tage Thompson, Mason McTavish, Stasi Maymond, and Kaprizov. Those are some of your bigger risers. Owen Power, Lafreniere, Boldy, Caulfield, and Zagreus are some of your bigger fallers overall here. So we'll start off with a little bit of baseball. Bring it back to the old days. Got to start off with Mike Trout, right? So this is a good sign right here. So you could say that, hey, this is maybe the bottom. I was hoping that this card might drop down closer to $1,000. It was going down in $500 increments, and so that was the next logical stopping point if it break. But it didn't break, so it actually broke out, retested successfully. And so you've got 2,000 that's going to stand as your next resistance. It's kind of bumping up against that. But really, you've got this zone up here, which is closer to $2,500. So maybe it makes a run up there as we head into the season. And he's looking good in training camp. So that's a positive sign, all right? Baseball, one of the bigger names in baseball, breaking out. If he goes up, then that creates room for other cards to increase in price because you're not going to have a modern base card worth more than Mike Trout. That's I'm not going to say for sure, but likely. So, all right, Juan Soto, we've got a couple of his Bowman First autographs here, PSA 10 and the BGS 9.5, I believe. And so these are starting to, it might have been PSA 9, but whatever, equivalent, right? Tracking fairly similarly as you would expect. Sometimes there's an opportunity, a little bit of a divergence, a little bit of arbitrage, not necessarily that, but you know what I'm saying here. Anyways, the higher grade is starting to lift up, and that could bring some of these lower grade cards, the 9.5s and the 9s, up along with it. So Juan Soto is a player that I will always buy depending on price, and so I picked up a few things here. This one's starting to get away from me a little bit, so we'll see what happens. So still in a downtrend, but a lot more buying here, and see if it can't bump up. If it hits this area of resistance and comes back, then better buying opportunity. If it breaks out, then this was the bottom, and we missed it here. So again, I think you need to look at these things card by card rather than index by index for the most part here. So Shohei Ohtani, downtrend remains. Again, monster jump, we saw that in the risers and fallers here, but really it's just a consolidation for the most part. So $80 was at the bottom, so it remains to be seen here. This is a little too much too fast. If you were able to get it closer to 100, 125 might be of interest. So that's the base pitching in the Topps Chrome. But longer term, a lot of these trends remain down, but it's got to start somewhere. So even if the trend is down, at some point the bottom will be put in for the most part. So not that we need to rock it up or anything like that, but it does provide a little bit of a floor. And then what you start to see is people that kind of sold out at the bottom, and a lot of people have been watching, feel they need to catch up, and then you'll see some chasing, and that's what can really drive some of those prices to the upside here. Fernando Tatis, again, we've got a 10 and a 9 here. Those cards are absolutely hammered, but we're starting to see a little bit of love in some of his other cards. The base is way far away, $35 or something like that. So if that starts to really creep up, then that puts upward pressure on some of these other cards here. But yeah, it looks like you're coming back to these prior reference points where there's some buying. I mean, we've had that in the past here, but we're seeing a little bit more volume this time here, so people may be more interested in Tatis overall. And Rafi Devers breaking out of his downward compression here with a retest, and so this may be a card to have on your radar very strongly, back into this area of a lot of buying here. So here you are again. And with that big contract, we'll see what they can surround him with in Boston, with Story out and Xander gone. But he's sure got the talent. So can they throw a few guys around him to protect him? We shall see. And Carlos Correa returning to the Twins. And again, a lot of buying in here while his name is front and center. So this may be too much too fast. But just looking at some of these other players, I mean, you're looking at Correa, $250 for a Bowman Chrome prospect auto. You can get a lot of these other guys. Here's this Chrome prospect. Otto again. All right, you got that twice here. I wanted to make a point here. Ronald Acuna Jr. Continues to grind a little bit lower, see what he comes back at. But his prospect out of his first, you're talking about $950, right? So are we paying? He's coming off of injury, didn't look great. He's got talent. He's young. He's really proven that. He can play the game. So is he going to be healthy this year and have MVP level season? So then that kind of justifies the price to an extent. But when you're looking at this card, this prospect out on the first, in the the PSA 9. You can get refractors PSA 9 of Goldschmidt, Freddie Freeman, Correa, Lindor, Xander Bogaerts for a half to a third the price of this, same condition, and with a refractor, numbered out to 499 or 500 or whatever here. So, yeah, I would like to get a Ronald Acuna Jr., but as long as his price is double to triple what some guys who are a few years older and on a similar path, on a really good path, I have a tough time pulling the trigger on that one here. So, all right, we'll do some football here. T-Law. Stetson Bennett and the Bulldogs just won the national championship in really close fashion. They really kept it close. I think they actually just scored again a few minutes ago here. But he's old. He's really old here. So we're going to go over a few quarterbacks. Move myself out of the way here in the NFL that are younger than Stetson Bennett, and T-Law is one of them. Here's lower grade PSA, or the high grade PSA. No, that's the low grade. So high grade, doing fine. But here's your silver 9. So it's or this is percentage trips here. This is the PSA 10. Hasn't moved a whole lot here. Now it's just starting to get a little bit of love and move into positive territory. The PSA 9, again, percentage terms with a monster rip. People were happy to pay a couple $100 to get this thing going here. Starting to come off, and some of those prospects are giving back here. But people were starting with that low grade before getting a lot of confidence in him to go for the high grade stuff here. So Mac Jones, another player that is younger than Stetson Bennett, 150 is kind of your floor on that one. So again, we don't know if it's the bottom or not. All you can do is say here's the recent low. If it goes below that, then it's no longer the low. I was going to put in some new lows here, but something to go against. So kind of flat. So whatever you think of him. Justin Fields, also younger than Stetson Bennett here, so it gets to that $600 level. It gets rejected. A little bit more buying in here, but his off season has started here. The Bears are no longer relevant, and perhaps you get a better price here. So that $300 area. Look at that really hard. Who knows if it gets back down there or not? But this is not the area to buy, especially since he's not going to do anything of super relevance in the near future here. Tua will not be playing this week here, so getting a little love at the bottom of the range here. A lot of again, grain of salt on all this stuff, guys. There's not a lot of volume here, so that trend remains down. The prices are as low as they've been in quite some time here. So some buyers are willing to step in, which is nice to see here. $700 is kind of your ceiling, but starting a rookie quarterback, your third stringer in a playoff game, that could be interesting. So we'll see how that works out, and I don't know if he gets another crack at it this year. Jalen Hurts, top of the range, coming off a little bit here. So if he has a good playoff, then maybe we finally get a breakout. So there's your bottom of below 500, and so now you're at closer to 1,000. Probably not buying it at that point, but I don't think you get another chance down here at any time in the near future. But Jalen Hurts, also younger than Stetson Bennett, Justin Herbert. A little bit messy here, hitting the bottom of his previously support, now it's resistance and coming off. A lot of buying in that $2,000 area, so you've got that burning in your pocket. There you go. All right, basketball. Michael Jordan, PSA 9. Jeff Wilson says it's a $10,000 card. No, not going below $10,000. So who knows? Trend remains down. But that would represent a 33% move to the downside still, kind of in this area is where it would wind up. And there's a lot of buying in there, so it makes sense, if that would be an ultimate target. So, again, it's grinding lower, and there's a lot of buying, so people may buy all the way down there, and we shall see what happens on that one. Luka, also grinding lower here. Here's your target around $1,000 or something like that, and so it's sitting at 2,000. So perhaps there's more downside on that one, but risk reward doesn't set terribly favorably right here. But again, I don't think you see massive spikes one way or another. A lot of low volume buying here, but again, the trend on that does remain down. Donovan Mitchell had himself a big game, couldn't get much out of it, and he's hovering near his bottom here. So we'll see if we can get a breakout in that one. But for the most part, a lot of these are just kind of sit and watch and let other people put their money to play and push it up or down, and then once you have the breakout one way or another, then maybe get involved. So Joel Embiid having a terrific season, but his trend remains down as well. And Ja Morant near the bottom of his range here. So whatever, if this is a card you've been looking for, I mean, this is about as low as it's been in a while. So a lot of buying in this one, we'll see. But again, still gently trending lower, but at least your risk reward on this one sets up a little bit more favorably. Just need some news out of them, which may not happen for a little while. All right, Connor McDavid, some hockey. Young Guns breaking out, so that's a good sign overall here. Have a little bit of trouble when you get up to that 4,500 area or something like that, call it. But for the most part, you're just kind of in the middle of the range, which is about 2,800 to the downside, 4,000 to the upside, and you're at 3,300 bucks. So you're just kind of in the middle there. So just kind of a sit and watch here. It gets down to 3K, 27, 2,800 or something like that. It may be more of a buy area if that's what you're looking for here. Leon Salt having a good season here. Has always had a great season last year. They're doing it again this year. So we like him at the bottom of the range here. Now he's at the top of the range. So you just kind of sit and watch. It's pretty low volume. So even if someone spikes up, you want to see sustained buying before I think really gets going. This was all the playoff stuff last year. Maybe that's what they have to wait for again to really get that going here. And Kirill Kaprizov. A lot of sideways action here, good volume. It's compressing, but there's not much to do. If you like it, go for it. I don't think it's going to hurt you for the most part, but I don't think it's going to help you a ton either. So, Jack Hughes as well. We've got kind of a break of the previous trend and a retest. Now he's sneaking back into the range, which is a good sign here. So I don't know if you're getting back up to $400. That didn't last for a whole long, but $300, a little bit of upside, 10% upside or something like that. It does seem like that could certainly happen in the near future. Look at it another way here: downtrend, bottom of the range with a bump, and make its way to the top here. So again, I think there's a little bit more upside, but if you're patient at 250 or something like that, this was your potential bottom. So if that holds, we'll see. But again, that trend's slightly down and getting near the top of the range here. So all right, real quick. All right, so Dakota and I took a little bit of flack, and when you're over the target, you take flack, right? That's how that goes. But so we were talking about vintage cards, and one of and they're not safe. It could be a demand issue. There's a lot of reasons for it. And so let me just say this: like, if someone said, Chad, you have to take every dollar of your retirement and you have to put it into cards, what do you do? It's like, these are the cards I would buy then, right? I mean, I think these are the relative safe. Their legacies are, for the most part, set. And there's not a lot that's going to change them. There's not a ton of those cards out there, so the demand is fairly. It doesn't take a whole lot of demand to overwhelm the smaller supply to get these things really moving. And again, people know kind of what they're in for here, but safe is not. I wouldn't describe it as safe. In baseball card terms, safe, right? Again, there's always going to be a bid for them, but again, as the collecting population ages a bit, and younger collectors come in, you can see, even in the some of the baseball cards we looked at, they're more interested in Acuna and Soto and Vlad Bowman first. I mean, you can even look at like a Jazz Chisholm, which Bowman first refractor, which would cost as much as like a Xander Bogaerts. It's like there's a lot of recency bias there. Why are these cards more valuable, going for more than like a Freeman or a Goldschmidt or something like that? Because there's more demand for them. And so you kind of have that recency bias. And sure, some people are always going to want the mantle, but the people that have the mantles, are they going to be able to replace or do better than replace people that want those cards? And I think the farther you get away from these guys, I just think it becomes more difficult. So time will tell. But one of the things we can look at for quote unquote safety is what are the underlying assets. And for baseball cards, it's just cardboard. If you're buying a bond, if you're buying a low beta stock or something like that, something perceived safe, you're usually getting a dividend or some sort of cash stream. And so I look at that safe, you get some predictable income out of it. But if you just want to look at volatility, there's a measure called standard deviation, which how much does a certain security or asset move away from its average. And so people that use Bollinger Bands for investing or whatever, those are two standard deviation bands. And when you get to the top of it or the bottom of it, it could be a good trading vehicle. It works from time to time here anyways. But if you calculate the standard deviation on some of these cards, these are not safe. So again, there's a certain level of demand for them. So from that perspective, I get it. But in terms of comparing these things to quote unquote traditional safe investments, it's not that close. And so you can do this in Excel. It's pretty easy. So you just take the price points, plot them in. It'll calculate standard deviation for you. So in this particular card, Mickey Mantle's a Bowman or PSA 4 in the 51 Bowman. 17, nearly $18,000 card with a standard deviation of $6,586 for the most part. So that's about how far it goes away from the mean. So at its current price right here, you're talking about somewhere between 25-30% for a standard deviation. That's how far away it moves from its average. And so just as an example, if you have If you buy utilities or long-term treasuries, you're talking about a 15% standard deviation, right? And so those are quote-unquote safe. If you're looking at very short-term securities, 1 or 2% standard deviation. If you're looking at consumer staples with dividends, you're talking about a 12% standard deviation. And with these cards, the perceived safe cards in the industry, you're talking 25, 30%. I mean, there's very, very aggressive funds out there speculating on companies and their standard deviation is 17 or 18%. That's getting up there. You typically don't see them up in this range in the blended portfolio. So this is a high number here. It's a high percentage. Same thing with Willie Mays. Standard deviation of $4,222 on a $15,000 card. Again, 25, 30% standard deviation. This is volatile stuff here. It's not what anybody would say is safe. I mean, you've got a card that was trading at $20,000 and now you're at $15,000. So in the near future, started out at $5,000, so you tripled your money since 2020, which is quite good. But for the most part, if you bought up in this area, you haven't done so well. So it's all relative. Safe could be, I bought these cards a long time ago, and they've steadily ground upwards, sure, all right, but there's a lot of volatility, there's a lot of movement in these things, and if you had your retirement portfolio in these cards and you saw it drop 20%, 30%, even like the mantle get cut in half since 2021, I think maybe you wouldn't say it's safe. So again, maybe it's just semantics. When I think safe, I'm thinking predictable income. I'm thinking something that can be used for have a cash stream or a melt value or something like that, in a good valuation. And perhaps when people are saying safe here, it's like in the pantheon of sports cards, you want the GOATs because there's always going to be some level of demand for them. It's like, oh, all right, I can get behind that. So maybe there's just a little miscommunication or something. Anyways, so that's what I got for you. Appreciate the time. Have a great rest of the weekend here, and we'll talk to you later. Bye now.